I took care of paralyzed Ethan Thompson for 2 years, and everyone thought the first thing he'd do when he got up would be to marry me. I was the only one who asked the night of his successful surgery, "Do you still want to marry me?" He hesitated, that simple answer he didn't say in the end. I laughed, "I see." I took the ring off and left the place I had lived in for 2 years that night without hesitation. "Do you still want to marry me?" Ethan Thompson froze slightly at the words and looked at his lap for a long time without speaking. The clamor from outside the house came through the unclosed doorway. The doctor said that Brother Thompson's surgery was a success and that he would be back to his normal self in less than half a month. I really didn't expect Brother to recover. 2 years ago, Brother almost gave up on himself. Thanks to my sister-in-law's perseverance, they must be getting married, so I'm preparing a wedding gift before it's too late. Ethan Thompson heard all these wishes, but in the end he didn't say anything. An awkward atmosphere just hung in the air. I ended up getting up and massaging his knees and calves as usual. Thoughtfully, I gave him a hand. "Is this strength okay?" This broke the awkward atmosphere. His tense body gradually relaxed, and I asked again softly as I had done for the past 2 years, "Is it uncomfortable?" He shook his head and replied earnestly, "No, your massage is better than the caregiver's." I looked at my hands as I squeezed his legs. In the beginning, I wouldn't have done it. In fact, in the beginning, I wouldn't have pressed them. It was because he couldn't tolerate the caregiver touching his body, and every time the caregiver arrived, he lost his temper and kicked the person away. But for his legs, massage is an essential thing, so I followed the massage parlor owner to learn for 3 months. From the very beginning, I practiced on myself by soaking the potion, and only at the end did I carefully press on his legs. The first time I only dared to press and squeeze while he slept. He was a light sleeper and still he found out he lost his temper. "Get out!" I didn't get out and pressed again, following the points given by the massage parlor owner. He couldn't move his legs and slammed pillows on my head, but when I didn't move, he simply slammed everything he could get his hands on in my direction. It ended up being a picture frame with a picture of him in college, one hand holding up a trophy and one hand clenching his fist in a spirited manner. As warm blood trickled down the corner of his forehead, he looked at me and tried to struggle to get to me, but the restriction of his legs prevented him from doing so. Finally, he covered his face and suddenly cried out, "Go away, you go, don't be around me. It's no use, I can't feel it, no amount of pressure will help." At that time he gave up on himself, and I rushed over every day, rain or shine, to give him massages. Until his mom found out that he had swallowed sleeping pills and rushed him to the hospital. His mom couldn't do anything for him, so I squatted in front of him and said, "Look at me." He looked at me obediently and I said, "Everything will be fine, trust me." At that time I didn't even know where I got that confidence from. From that day on I lived in his house. Ethan Thompson's mom cried and thanked me and thanked me and thanked me and said it was a good thing I was there, and she wanted to say something and I knew what she wanted to ask. So I said, "Ethan Thompson doesn't kick me out, I'll stay with him." But the truth is, I didn't leave even when he kicked me out. When another massage didn't work, he snapped, "Get out, all of you!" By then he was in a wheelchair and the whole bedroom was smashed to pieces. But the good thing was that he finally avoided me to stop smashing things on me. I came up to him after he was done venting and I said again and again, "Ethan Thompson, trust me." It was a phrase that lasted for 2 years. Gradually, he was able to feel pressure on his leg, and then gradually he was able to do simple activities. Until yesterday's surgery, the doctor was incredible and said the surgery was a success. Not surprisingly, he was able to stand up. Ethan Thompson's mom knew the news and shoved the bank card into my hand. I looked at the bank card in a trance. These 2 years I am not for a bank card. Ethan Thompson's friends all call me sister-in-law, but the truth is that only I know that I am not much of a sister-in-law at all. We didn't even confess our love for each other, not to mention any relationship. But luckily I had Ethan Thompson's words, "Luna, when my leg heals, we'll get married right away." It was during his first treatment, when the doctor politely expressed his regrets and I pushed him home. When he walked in the door, he started to break down. The usual proud son of God suddenly slipped down the altar. No one could accept it. I hugged him tightly and he bit into my shoulder. The bite was so deep and hard that I still have teeth marks on my shoulder. He looked back when he saw the blood and panicked and said to me, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." After apologizing, I massaged his calf as usual and he uttered the words. "No," he also asked, "Luna Parker, do you have a crush on me?" Without acquiescing, I looked at him and said, "Yes." He looked at me for a long time before he said the words "marry me," but I didn't do all that to equivocate. I just wanted him to feel the same way I did and prayed that he would fall in love with me someday too. At this point I got up as I always did and poured the medicinal oil into my hands and rubbed them together to warm them, which touched his calves. I knew he was watching me for a long time before his voice came from above my head. Luna, you don't have to do these things anymore. My hand lurched, still insisting on finishing the presses, and I tilted my head back, asking once again, undeterred, Ethan Thompson, do you still want to marry me? He wanted to say something but kept his mouth shut. I could only laugh at myself for being delusional. But the ring on my ring finger was put on for me by his own hand, and I've been secretly in love with him for so many years. How could I not be delusional? I got up and washed the oil off my hands. The ring on my ring finger hurts my heart. He spoke through the door, Luna, you're my sister. Tears hit the water and I quickly wiped them away. Don't say things like that. Those kind of words would be too cruel to me. The living room was still bustling as I pushed the bathroom door open and went out. I hang my head and look into Ethan Thompson's eyes as I struggle to get the ring off. The ring was actually the wrong size, one ring too small, and I wasn't sure if he was sloppy or if it wasn't meant for me in the first place. But I do know that the smaller ring I forcefully put in, strangling my finger. Just before I was able to fool myself that rings are like that. When I did take it off, my finger was so relieved that I actually regretted a little why I hadn't taken it off sooner. Ethan Thompson's eyes flicker and I hand him the ring. Give it back. The marks on my finger are clear and I add, a smaller ring. He tries to open his mouth to say something but I wave my hand, pushing him out the door. Just as they left the house, their friends in the living room practically surrounded them. What are the young couple whispering about? Even we can't hear them. Don't worry, we won't mess with you today. We'll do it at your wedding. We'll play together for a while and then we'll leave. Ethan Thompson's friends are as polite and measured as he is. Considering Ethan Thompson's recent surgery, everyone brought juice and light food. Someone was asking Ethan Thompson, Brother Thompson, when you get better, we'll even go skiing in Vail together. Ethan Thompson responded in a habitual manner, never again mentioning skiing and basketball in stress. His friend turned to me and said, Sister-in-law is coming too, Brother Thompson will book you a flight, you'll love it. Ethan Thompson looked up at me and threw the question at me. Being rejected twice in a row, even if I'm shameless, I still have self-respect. I said, you guys go ahead. But Ethan Thompson suddenly spoke up, it doesn't matter if we go together. I think of you as a sister anyway. At those words, everyone fell silent. His friend laughed and smacked him on the head. Ethan Thompson, you've got to be kidding me. Immediately, more friends jumped out to relieve him. His leg is just fine, his head is not sober, don't bother with him, sister-in-law. The conversation was turned over in a fit of giggles and jokes, but Ethan Thompson said nothing from start to finish. I remembered a long time ago when my best friend saw the ring on my ring finger and asked me, Luna, are you sure? They're not from the same world as us, and if his leg heals, will he really marry you? I was afraid to say the answer then, and I'm still afraid to say it today. But Ethan Thompson gave me the answer. No. The atmosphere at the party was harmonious, with soft music and conversations about the past. I hung my head and searched Vail. It's not well known, it's a famous local ski resort. I couldn't understand a word they were saying, and it was at this point that I vaguely understood my best friend's phrase, not from the same world. I stood up and Ethan Thompson's eyes fell on me at once. I went back to my bedroom, but Ethan Thompson's mom had added all the stuff. I called the woman who had cried and thanked me 2 years ago. Rubbing her fingertips together, she asked, Auntie, that bank card of yours? She seemed eager for me to mention it and immediately picked up before I finished. 6 zeros, go ahead and take it and thank you for taking care of Ethan Thompson for the past 2 years. I let out a deep hum. With nothing to pack, I threw the only few clothes I had into the trash. Taking the card with me, I headed out the door. Passing by the living room, Ethan Thompson's friend asked me, What are you doing so late, sister-in-law? I didn't want to make things difficult for Ethan Thompson, so I smiled and bent my eyes. I'm hungry, I'm going out to eat a bowl of wontons. They were clamoring for takeout, but I refused. It's not worth it because you'll pay hundreds of dollars for takeout. Ethan Thompson realized what was going on and raised his eyes to look at me without blinking. I waved my hand to the room. I'm out of here. At 1 in the morning, I left the place I'd lived in for 2 years with a bank card. It wasn't a loss. I found myself a place to land. No need to watch over Ethan Thompson at all hours, no fear of him having a sudden mental breakdown at night. The sudden relaxation of my body didn't take a moment to get used to. Instead, I couldn't sleep, so I held a glass of water on the balcony and watched the few stars that weren't there. All was silent, and I began to listen to my own voice. I thought I would be sad and upset. But no, all I did was touch the ring of red marks on my ring finger from the strangulation and began to think about when it would fade. That night, all I could think was that the wind was a little cooler that day and the stars were a little brighter in the sky. Ethan Thompson called in the early hours of the next morning, and when I answered there was no sound from his end. When I answered the phone there was no sound from his end. I finally said, "What's the matter?" He spoke tentatively, "Luna Parker, I'd like to have a milky bun in the morning." With his lower body paralyzed, he wouldn't eat. I tried and tried, but he kept his mouth shut and wouldn't take a bite. Finally my tears fell to the floor and I opened my mouth to beg, "Take a bite, you can't go without eating." Maybe it was because he was tired of seeing me cry, he finally frowned and bit into the milky bun. He didn't like it outside because I learned how to make it. But yesterday was still fresh in my mind, and his silence I still remember now. I said matter-of-factly, "Ethan Thompson, I'm outta here." There was silence on the other side of the phone for a long time, and I didn't know what to say, so I simply hung up. The bank card left a staggering amount of money. I counted the few zeros and froze. After counting it several times in a row, I still couldn't believe it. I carefully kept the bank card before I realized my girlfriend's sentence. "You are not people of the same world." Indeed, my mom and dad are just ordinary people. They knew I was taking care of my paralyzed boyfriend and came to visit me. They were overwhelmed by the hospitality of Ethan Thompson's mom, and when they got home they said, "Boy, that was hard." But they didn't stop me, they just waved their hands. "It's okay, go ahead and try, big deal, go home." It was only now 2 years later that I vaguely understood Ethan Thompson's mom's actions. Even Ethan Thompson was surprised by the expensive dishes, not to mention the two ordinary people from the county. Ethan Thompson's mom's hospitality was actually a clear sign to my parents. We're not from the same world. I took that card and claimed to buy a new house, and not even a single zero was subtracted. Next, busy renovation, busy this and that, half a month later to see Ethan Thompson surprisingly in front of the neighborhood Starbucks. He was being pushed by his friends. "Ethan Thompson, if you don't get Luna Parker back, I'll look down on you. Apologize to your sister-in-law." Who else could be your sister-in-law but her? She's the only one I recognize. Ethan Thompson hadn't been out in 2 years, his complexion was fair and his face was blindingly white when the sun hit it. He heard his friend half-tough, half-cajoling teasing, and tugged at the corner of his lips in a perfunctory manner. "Wait until Luna Parker shows up in front of me right now, then we'll talk about it." Unfortunately, I was at the table behind them. I subconsciously ducked to the side when I heard this, but the next second my friend from Starbucks gleefully called my name. "Luna." She ran over to share with me, "We have your favorite cake today." Ethan Thompson and the rest of the table went silent, and I watched as they followed my friend's figure to see me. My friend placed the cake in front of me and looked puzzled at my suddenly changing face. "What's wrong?" She subconsciously tensed up because of my face. Then I realized that it was a group of them who were making a scene, so why should my mood be affected by them? I changed my face. "It's okay, sit down, you remember I like this cake." With that one sentence, the conversation was ripped open. The voices from Ethan Thompson's table inevitably carried over. "God forbid, Ethan Thompson, you go apologize. Such a nice sister-in-law, I don't believe you'll ever meet another. I'm telling you, if you don't speak up, there's no point in being friends." I am familiar with each of their voices. When Ethan Thompson was paralyzed, they came to see him one by one. One of them was a girl who had a crush on Ethan Thompson. When she went in to see Ethan Thompson deliberately spilled water on her dress. It was a hot day and the dress was thin, so the wet water immediately showed her skin. The girl stood still in embarrassment, and I found a shawl and handed it to her. Ethan Thompson looks at her with a cold brow and sneers, "You're going to like me like this?" The girl's eyes reddened and I gently closed the door. When she came out, she tilted her head back and said, "I don't want to like Ethan Thompson anymore, he's not worth it." After she said that, she left carrying her wet skirts and returned halfway through her walk. She watched me fix the water stains dripping from her skirt in the living room and said, "But you're very nice, thank you. And don't you dare like Ethan Thompson, he doesn't deserve you." She ran away quickly and we became friends, giving each other gifts on holidays. The people around Ethan Thompson are not bad. I listened to my friend's words while thinking out loud. It was Ethan Thompson's voice that made me realize he was standing next to me. He calls my name, Luna Parker. I looked up subconsciously and his brow furrowed as he saw me and seemed suddenly unable to open that mouth. Behind him, his friends are all clamoring, "Ethan Thompson, apologize and get your sister-in-law back." Ethan Thompson's frown tightened. But nowadays I don't need his apology. Falling in love is originally a matter of your love and my willingness. What's more, didn't I take the bank card away? The zeros behind the numbers I still don't understand. People can't have both. Ethan Thompson stood frozen in front of me. I looked at his tangled look and spoke. No, I don't need to apologize. He sniffed in relief and turned halfway around, then looked at me again and asked, When are you going back? Maybe I didn't make myself clear last time, so I explained more clearly this time. I'm not going back. Ethan Thompson, not sure what he was thinking, looked at me somberly and finally hummed. He turned around and went back to his table. The close friends who knew each other well were looking on. How's it going? Did you get it back? When are you getting married? When am I going to wrap the wedding candy? Not getting married. Ethan Thompson's voice was light with a hint of impatience. The table suddenly went silent, and Ethan Thompson repeated himself, his voice subconsciously raised. What makes you think I'm going to marry her? Because I'm grateful to her that I'm going to marry her? I said I looked upon her as a sister. For the third time, one can't give a face to a face. I simply stood up and said to his friends, You've got it all wrong about the marriage. I'm just getting paid to take care of Ethan Thompson. Ethan Thompson tilted his head and looked at me somberly, and I met his gaze graciously. I looked at his furrowed brow and said, And you don't have to treat me like a sister, a stranger will do. During the time I was taking care of Ethan Thompson, sometimes I couldn't help but wonder if Will hadn't been in the accident, would he have fallen in love with Clark? At first I thought yes, then I thought no. I was torn back and forth between would and wouldn't, and in the end the question remained unanswered. I don't know their answer, but I do know mine and Ethan Thompson's. Ethan Thompson is in love big time. He made the official announcement in his circle of friends and led the girl to meet his friends in a big way, causing me to want to not know. I bumped into Ethan Thompson and his girlfriend at a party. There are too many common friends who did not expect to meet. Ethan Thompson led his girlfriend into the door when the side of the friends held my hand. After all, how I took care of Ethan Thompson in those 2 years they all see in the eyes. I smiled reassuringly at her and graciously went to look at the girl Ethan Thompson had led in. Nothing special. 2 eyes and a mouth. Ethan Thompson saw me too and picked a random corner of the doorway to sit in. When he sat down, he asked the waiter for a fruit plate. When the fruit plate arrived, he placed it in front of the girl, who smiled with an arched eyebrow and went over to whisper to him. The girl joyfully shared with him. He was not even willing to lower his head. His eyes fell on the fruit plate on that lazy listening to the girl. Outsiders can see the obvious inattention. If this is what he looks like when he's in a relationship, it's actually quite boring. I was not stimulated, my friend was stimulated. She got drunk and tugged at me about introducing me to a boyfriend, and I patiently explained that she was drunk. As I was helping her out, Ethan Thompson's girlfriend locked eyes with me. Sister, I recognize you. I paused in my tracks as she then spoke. Thank you for taking care of Ethan Thompson. I nodded, helping my friend try to walk. The girl was so eager to win my round that she didn't notice the sudden quietness around her and hurriedly got up to stand in front of me. But if I had stayed with Ethan Thompson then I could have done the same. She said she could do that too? I let out a soft chuckle. Words can be said by anyone, but there's no such thing as a what if. But there isn't either in case Ethan Thompson's leg gives out again, and she can go and try to take care of it. Ethan Thompson had already turned pale early on, and my friend stepped in to lighten the mood. I also jokingly eased the situation by saying, if it comes to that you might as well spend some money on a caregiver. With those words, Ethan Thompson was still angry. Bang! The glass hit the tabletop hard and I looked over with a sideways glance. He frowned and spoke impatiently, what's the point of talking about the past? But what's not to mention about the past is that he doesn't want it mentioned, he thinks it's humiliating. The next day after my friend sobered up and heard this incident, he couldn't stop scolding. What does she mean, show off to your face? She flaunted as she flaunted. I counted the bank card balance of the few zeros, well, surprisingly not angry. That's when I realized how powerful money is. But my friend thought I was trying to be brave and mentioned once again, Ethan Thompson is in love, do you want me to help you find a boyfriend? With your qualifications you'll be able to find one in minutes. Nowadays we are all used to fast-paced relationships, but I still want to slow down, want to meet someone to slowly understand the relationship, and exchange sincerity for sincerity. I politely declined, no need. Because of my refusal, my friend firmly believed that I was still waiting for Ethan Thompson even though my heart was broken by him. She scolded Ethan Thompson from the sidelines and I laughed and cursed along. As the days went by I learned to bake and arrange flowers. There was no shortage of people coming up to me, but when I suggested that we take our time getting to know each other, they backed off as if they were on the verge of an attack. Then less than half a month later, you can see the other side found a girlfriend news. My friends laughed at me for being a professional redneck. I laughed back. I really wasn't in a hurry. When I was taking care of Ethan Thompson, I was really all about him. Now I wanted to focus on myself first. I want to empty my heart before I accept anyone else. I think I'm going to accept people who are just as genuine as I am in the future, and I'm still looking forward to genuineness touching genuineness. Ethan Thompson split, and less than a Thompson talked again. Another big official announcement was made, and my friends grew to accept that Ethan Thompson and I were not going to make it. I learned to scuba dive like Karak and spent my days with my equipment in hand, looking for interesting waters. After 6 months of being away from New York City, news of Ethan Thompson reached my ears on purpose. He'd split up again, perhaps coming to his senses and stopping suddenly. Ethan Thompson's friends have hinted in jest that Ethan Thompson is now single, urging me to come back. Near the new year, had to go home. But I did not expect that as soon as I got off the plane, everyone was waiting for me. Ethan Thompson's friends all came and teased me, "Sister Luna, you've gotten darker." They didn't stay away from me just because Ethan Thompson and I weren't together. One friend even sent a special message on the day Ethan Thompson and I made it clear, "Sister Luna, I want to be friends with you without Ethan Thompson." But I didn't expect Ethan Thompson to come. He stood in the distance, not knowing what he was doing. But finally he stepped forward and said to me, "It's been a long time." Half a year ago his attitude towards me still contained a hidden antipathy, but now he actually said long time no see to me like a good friend. I politely returned, "Long time no see." He spoke with deliberation, "My legs." He was interrupted in the middle of his sentence by my ringtone and I smiled at them in embarrassment. I answered the phone and just as it connected, the teenager's voice was bright, "Sister, where are you?" I was also infected by his voice, "I'll send you a location, don't worry, walk over slowly." After hanging up the phone, my best friends all surrounded me and said that they had a location to eat. I waited for them to finish before asking, "Is it okay to add someone?" They were all surprised. "Who? Add what person?" The orange punch bowl was bright and wobbly, and he ran all the way to me even though I had told him to slow down a bit. He took my hand and said, "I missed you so much." He moved too fast for my friend to react. I tried to take the suitcase from him, but he refused. Only then did I introduce myself to my friend, Ryan Green, my boyfriend. There are times when fate is just so strange and comes out of nowhere at a time you couldn't have imagined. Ryan Green and I confessed, and as usual I said, "Take your time." In fact, I was ready for him to insist on 2 Thompson on the back of the plan, but I did not expect him to last so long. When I looked back, he was everywhere around me. I am not small this year. People around me hear me say slowly will think I am hanging them. But not the young man. He hears that taking his time really is taking his time. Sincerely. You're hiding it well. If I hadn't come back this time, we probably wouldn't have seen each other. No, this meal is on you. It's not that I hid it tightly, but I didn't expect him to come back with me. I didn't catch the plane because of the traffic jam, and when I changed to the next flight, he pitifully sent a message, "Why haven't you come yet? I hate you." I realized he bought the seat next to me to surprise me, but just missed it by mistake. He landed early and waited at the airport and we just met up. My friends were still up in arms and I smiled and raised my hand, "On me, on me." Ryan Green raised his hand in the same way I did, and spoke in the same tone of voice as I did, "On me, on me, on me," he said. He was outgoing and quickly became familiar with his friends. When we were seated at the restaurant, Ryan Green was the only one to be seated, and there was no shortage of seats. That's when someone realized Ethan Thompson wasn't there. When they called, Ethan Thompson's voice was uncertain. He came to the hospital because his leg was in pain. How could they sit down in such a situation? So suddenly? Are you okay? What did the doctor say? What did the doctor say? I'm fine, the doctor said I should just rest. You guys go ahead and eat, I'll invite you back next time. Although Ethan Thompson said so, but the previous things are too serious, his family history is there. Looking at their difficult face, I took the initiative to give steps. You go to see Ethan Thompson, this meal can be eaten at any time. It just so happens that Ryan Green and I are tired and we want to go back to rest and relax. Ryan Green wasn't angry about the sudden turn of events and cheerfully sent the people away. I took Ryan Green home with me, and on the way home he excitedly pointed out the flowers and plants on the side of the road and asked about them. He has a lot to say every day, even the dog on the side of the road can pull to say a few words. When we arrived home, no one would have guessed that someone who was in the hospital would be standing in front of my house. Ryan Green held my hand for a beat as he saw Ethan Thompson step forward and was the first to speak. "Brother Ethan Thompson, is it?" His voice held a smile and he looked extraordinarily affectionate, even calling up to his brother. I subconsciously glanced at him. Ethan Thompson smiled at him but didn't answer his words. He looked to me and called out to me, "Luna Parker." His gaze falls on me. "It's been a long time," he said again. Ryan Green didn't show any unhappiness at being ignored and stood obediently holding my hand. Ethan Thompson was about to say something else when I stepped forward and interrupted him, taking the initiative to introduce Ryan Green to him. "This is my boyfriend, Ryan Green." Ethan Thompson's mouth pulled out a smile at his words, and he responded with a low, half-hearted, "Aha." After he finished speaking, he added, "I may have a problem with my leg." Ryan Green spoke out at the right time, anxiously concerned. "If there is something wrong with your leg, then you should hurry to the hospital." He patiently asked, "Do you need me to call an ambulance for you?" After taking out his cell phone, he explained in a serious manner, "After all, my girlfriend is not a doctor." Ethan Thompson ignored him and called out to me again, "Luna." Ryan Green also ignored him and looked at me and asked me directly, "Sister, why is he ignoring me?" I don't know why Ethan Thompson ignored him. Ethan Thompson opened his mouth to call out to me again, "Luna." Ryan Green chased after me and put his face in front of my eyes and asked, "Sister, why?" I slapped his head away, "I don't know." He puts his face in front of me again. I couldn't resist him, so I subconsciously took out my room key and opened the door, only to suddenly realize that Ethan Thompson was still there when I stood in front of the door. Ryan Green didn't hide the fact that Ethan Thompson was still at the door. "Sis, you're forgetting." The expression on Ethan Thompson's face was nearly impossible to maintain. When he saw my eyes fall on him, he then spoke, "Talk." Ryan Green shook my hand. "Sister, what do you want to talk to him about?" It was only then that I reacted to his uncharacteristically green tea attitude from the very beginning. Slowly and half-heartedly I obeyed him. "I'm not saying anything to him." After I said that, I closed the door and Ryan Green came in and hugged me. "I'm jealous." I rubbed his head. "What jealousy?" I told him everything when we first fell in love. Nothing was off limits, so what's not to worry about when he knows about my past with Ethan Thompson? "I hate you for being a log." I didn't know how to respond, but without waiting for my answer, he cheered up again. "What is good?" He spoke in a muffled, small voice. "I can't see anyone else being nice." But Ethan Thompson called later that night. "Luna, did you know your boyfriend had a first love of 4 years?" Ethan Thompson is literally hospitalized in an unknown condition, and one by one his ex-girlfriends who previously said they would take care of him are going to the hospital. Friends close to me even made bets to see how many days at most they would last. It turned out to be 2 days. Most left the hospital within a couple hours. My friend said he deserved it and repeatedly told me not to go soft. Of course I don't go soft. I haven't thought to look back since I took that card. Ethan Thompson's mom messaged me out of the blue one night. "Luna, can you meet with Ethan Thompson alone?" Ryan Green was standing by when she messaged me. I seriously declined. "Sorry, my boyfriend might mind." She called and begged. "I'm begging you, I'll pay whatever you want." "Ethan Thompson, he can't skip dinner." "I'm begging you, just let him eat." Why is this happening to Ethan Thompson? She was incoherent, her tone broken. From her mere words I surmised that Ethan Thompson's hospitalization was no small matter. Aunt Thompson cried out, "Why in the world would this happen to us? You have to help me, he can't do this without eating." Ryan Green sat obediently, not wanting to make things difficult for me, and spoke graciously, "It's okay to meet, don't worry about me." But it doesn't matter anymore. Why did it have to be this one meeting, and as soon as I meet one they'll use that excuse to get me to meet countless others? I still insisted to the broken woman, "Sorry, I don't owe you anything. I have my life to live and so does Ethan Thompson." The next day I learned from a friend that Ethan Thompson had problems with his legs, that what the doctor had said was a small chance had just happened to him. His muscles atrophied when he stood up and it was likely that he would have to go back to his old life. It was unbearable for him to have me with him during that time. Not to mention experiencing what it was like to be back on his feet, and now something had gone wrong and he was told he could be paralyzed. I didn't respond to that message when Ethan Thompson called out of the blue. I thought he was calling to inquire about massages and medicinal oils. But no, he said, "Luna, believe it or not, you and your little boyfriend won't last." I didn't answer. He went on, "What about a bet?" He said, "Bet on your boyfriend's loyalty." I don't know how to bet on loyalty. But I do know that trust falls apart as soon as the idea of a test comes to mind. I'm not going to make that stupid bet with you. But he didn't care about my refusal. He said one last thing, just wait and see, men are all the same. I turned it over as an episode. The next few days were busy one after another because of the year-end. Ryan Green wanted to hang out with me over here and asked me out a couple times. He was downcast, his loss on his face. Finally realizing that I was really busy, he started wandering around the city by himself. His character never lacked friends, and I didn't worry that he wouldn't make any. Sure enough, in just 2 days he was already excited to go out. In the morning, without waiting for me to go out, he already went out early. Sometimes I was awake to run into him, and sometimes when I was still sleeping and went to the living room, I could only see the note he left. When the notes became more and more frequent, the uneasiness slowly came as an afterthought. What was he doing? Who was he seeing? I thought of my previous business trip at Thompson. He messed with me and asked me what I was doing. For the first time I understood what he was thinking. I am too slow to heat, always slow to half a beat when I perceive the other side of the idea. I want to talk to him. But before I could find the time to talk to him, Ethan Thompson changed his number and sent a picture. Ryan Green and a girl laughing and having fun at Starbucks. For a split second, uneasiness flooded my mind. He told me this morning that he was meeting a friend. Ethan Thompson messaged, "See, guys are all the same." I had no idea what he was sending these messages for, and he sent more pictures in rapid succession. He said, "Guess what, he'll be home tonight?" I deleted and blacked him out. I sat at home and hesitantly asked Ryan Green what he was doing. He replied quickly, "Having dinner with friends." I didn't ask, "When will you be back?" "Around 10 p.m. Then I'll wait until 10 p.m. As the minutes ticked by, I sat on the couch and waited anxiously. At 11 o'clock, Ryan Green still hadn't returned, and he hadn't even sent me a message. Ethan Thompson switched cell phones and called me. "How's it going? Is it the same thing I said about men?" But I didn't know what his intentions were. So what if Ryan Green did betray me? If he cheats on me, then I'll break up with him and like the next guy. It's as simple as that. I never lose the courage to try just because I'm hurt. When the girl who liked Ethan Thompson told me that Ethan Thompson was not good enough for me, I was skeptical because he was nice and kind-hearted and had a lot of good qualities, so how could he not be good enough for me? Now I look back at the 2 years I took care of him from an objective point of view. He was a bad-tempered, self-absorbed person who had the most advanced medical equipment but was unwilling to try it. Now he is trying to drag me down with him. He really doesn't deserve me. I waited at home until 1 in the morning. Ryan Green still hadn't come back. But why did I wait? Why should I take Ethan Thompson's word for it instead of asking him myself? Why should things between the two of us be meddled with because of Ethan Thompson? I put on my coat and pushed open the door to my room. I had just gone downstairs when I happened to run into Ryan Green down the block. He got out of the car and there was a girl sitting in the back of the car, someone from the photo. He saw me and was suddenly a little overwhelmed, calling my name to explain, "Luna, I'm a little late getting back." The woman in the car saw me too and shook her hand at me. The car was leaving and I stopped it before it drove off. The driver scolded me for not knowing the danger and I knocked on the window. The woman revealed a beautiful face and asked me, "What's wrong?" I asked her, "Are you Ryan Green's first love?" She explained in a panic, "You're Ryan Green's current girlfriend, right?" "Don't get me wrong, I'm just here on business." I interrupted her, "Yes or no?" Ryan Green, realizing that I was angry, came over and explained anxiously, "I was stuck in traffic and came back a little late." He said 10 p.m. but now it's 1 a.m. How many hours were spent in traffic? I asked again, "Yes or no?" Yes or no? During our relationship, Ryan Green never told me about this first love. Some people might not mind, but I did. Ryan Green and I broke up on the spot. The girl got out of the car in a panic and tried to talk me out of it, following me around, saying one thing after another. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just happened to run into Ryan Green, who was also traveling here, and we had dinner together. I really didn't do anything. You can get the security cameras. As she went on and on, I didn't budge, and it was Ryan Green who finally said, "Shut up." She stood still and didn't know what to do. Ryan Green stopped and said to her, "Go ahead." He watched the girl leave, then turned to catch up with me and followed me back to my house, blocking the door. "We need to talk." I looked up at him and said, "No, we don't." When I agreed to be in a relationship with him, I told him that two people have to be honest with each other, and I told him everything. He hid the fact that he was in love with his first love, and he hid the fact that he was having dinner with his first love. I'm not wooden. I just chose to be a log because I was with him. I don't want to talk and laugh with other people, and I don't want to pick up other people's conversation and other people's stems. From the very beginning, I practiced on myself by soaking the potion, and in the end I carefully pressed on his leg. I'm just going to break up. The relationship was announced quickly and ended quickly. My friend asked me to bring Ryan Green along for the ride. I said with a big smile, separated. My friends bemoaned the situation and dragged me to introduce me to boyfriends, but I still refused, expecting someone genuine and if not, preferring to be on my own. Ethan Thompson's mom still calls me and begs me to go see Ethan Thompson. I still didn't say yes, sent her all the recipes and remedies and booked a flight back home. I didn't miss my flight this time, and Ryan Green was sitting next to me when I took my seat. He smiled and bent his eyes and said, "Sis, I didn't miss it this time." But he didn't even want to understand why I was angry, he just wanted to make up with me. I was wrong. Let's make up. Forgive me. Let's be good. He kept saying these things over and over again. When he was chasing me, I could figure out every punctuation mark, and now he won't even try to explain himself. Not to mention the fact that I refused Ethan Thompson's mom's request to see me, so I can't think of any reason he'd have to meet with his first love. No reconciliation, period. When I got off the plane, he stood in the same spot, and when I took a taxi, I looked over and saw that he had already left. Sincere, passionate kid with an uncertain heart. But it doesn't matter. At least I enjoyed his enthusiasm. I'm still looking forward to my next relationship. End.